Have you ever pulled into a highway rest stop late at night and seen rows of big rigs with their curtains drawn, a faint light glowing from inside, and thought to yourself, why would anyone sleep in there when there too is a perfectly good motel just down the road? Well, here's the thing. Most people assume truck drivers sleep in their cab because they have no other choice. Like it is some kind of punishment for missing the exit to a normal life. But the truth is, a lot of drivers, and we are talking experienced, seasoned professionals who know exactly what they are doing, actively choose the KB over a hotel room every single night without hesitation. Once you understand why, you will never look at a parked semi-truck the same way again. Hi, my name is Jeremy, and this is Trucks United, the channel where we break down everything trucking, from the engineering under the hood to the real decisions drivers make out on the open road every single day. The life of an owner-operator. Why the truck is the business. To understand why drivers choose the cab, you first have to understand who we are really talking about here, and that is the owner-operator. If you are new to trucking, an owner-operator is essentially a self-employed truck driver who owns their vehicle and runs their own business. They are not just employees clocking in and out for a company fleet. These are entrepreneurs. These are people who have made a significant financial investment. We are talking anywhere from $100,000 to over $200,000 for a new long-haul truck. And they are running that investment like a business, because that is exactly what it is. In America, the owner-operator model is incredibly common, far more so than in Europe where company-owned fleets dominate the industry. That distinction matters a lot when it comes to understanding why the cab becomes a home. Think about it this way. When you own the truck, every single dollar you spend on the road comes directly out of your profit margin. Fuel, maintenance, insurance, food, and yes, accommodation. Every one of those costs is your responsibility. When you start doing the math on hotel stays, which we absolutely will in a few minutes, you very quickly start to see why the cab stops looking like a compromise and starts looking like a very smart financial decision. But it goes beyond just money. When you own your truck, you have usually spent months or even years speccing it out exactly the way you want it. The seat is adjusted perfectly for your body. The mirrors are set exactly right. Your coffee mug is in the same spot every morning. Your music is queued up. Your documents are organized the way you like them. The truck is not just a vehicle. It is your workspace, your office, and increasingly, your home. Just like you would not want to leave your home every night and sleep in a random room somewhere else, a lot of owner-operators feel exactly the same way about their cab. What's actually inside a modern sleeper cab? Now this is where a lot of people's assumptions completely fall apart. When most people imagine sleeping in a truck, they picture something like a fold-out cot behind a seat, maybe a thin curtain, the smell of diesel, and the sound of the highway rattling through paper-thin walls. And honestly, that was closer to the reality back in the 1970s and 1980s. But modern sleeper cabs are a completely different story. Let's start with the bed. In a high-spec American sleeper cab, you are typically looking at a mattress that is around 80 inches long and around 42 inches wide in a single bunk configuration. Some of the larger models go even wider than that. That is not a presidential suite, I will give you that. But it is a real full-length mattress that a 6-foot driver can stretch out on, completely flat. No weird angles, no feet hanging off the end. Then, there is the climate control. Modern sleepers come equipped with auxiliary power units that allow the driver to run heating and air conditioning without keeping the main engine running all night. So in the middle of a Texas summer or a Minnesota winter, the cab stays at whatever temperature the driver sets it to. You can sleep comfortably regardless of what the weather is doing outside. Now let's talk about the kitchen situation. Because yes, there is one. Most serious long-haul sleepers come with a refrigerator. usually 12-volt units that keep food and drinks cold without drawing too much power. Many drivers add a microwave, a coffee maker, and some even have a small countertop cooking surface. I have seen setups in some of these cabs that honestly put my own kitchen to shame, and I am not even embarrassed to admit that. Storage is another area where modern cabs have really stepped up. There are overhead cabinets, under-bunk storage compartments, dedicated spaces for clothing, and clever little pockets and organizers built into just about every surface. Experienced drivers become absolute masters of packing efficiently. Everything has a place, and everything stays in its place, even when the truck is moving at highway speed, which, if you have ever tried to keep your kitchen organized on a bumpy road, is genuinely impressive. And then there is the entertainment and connectivity side of things. Most drivers today have a television mounted in the sleeper, a laptop or tablet setup, a good inverter for charging devices, and cellular signal boosters or satellite internet connections that keep them connected even in remote areas. After a long day on the road, a driver can close the curtains, make a hot meal, watch a show, and sleep in their own space. A space that is entirely theirs and set up exactly the way they want it. Now compare that to Europe for a moment. European cab-over trucks, while impressive in their own right, have historically had much less living space in the sleeper compartment. The strict length regulations we have talked about on this channel before mean that European trucks have to be as short as possible to maximize cargo space, and that naturally limits how much room there is behind the seats. European drivers can absolutely spend time in the cab, and many do, but the sheer scale of living comfort you find in a top-spec American long-nose sleeper really is in a different league. The hotel math nobody talks about. Alright, let's talk numbers. Because this is where the cab over hotel argument gets really interesting, really fast. Let's say a long-haul driver is on the road for 250 nights a year. That is actually a fairly conservative estimate for a serious over-the-road driver. Some are out even longer than that. Now, let's say a decent roadside motel or budget hotel costs an average of $75 a night. We are not talking about anything fancy here. Just a clean room near a truck stop where you can safely park your rig. 250 nights multiplied by $75 is $18,750 every single year, just for somewhere to sleep. And that is the budget option. In many areas, especially near major cities or during busy seasons, you are not finding anything decent for $75. Push that average up to $100 a night, and you are now looking at $25,000 a year gone just on hotel rooms. Now think about what a high-quality sleeper cab upgrade costs. A really well-equipped factory sleeper configuration on something like a Kenworth W900 or a Peterbilt 389 might add $20,000 to $30,000 to the purchase price of the truck. But that is a one-time cost spread over the entire working life of the vehicle. Drivers typically keep their trucks for anywhere from 5 to 10 years or more. So when you divide that sleeper upgrade cost over 10 years of use, you are looking at $2,000 to $3,000 per year. Compared to $18,000 to $25,000 in hotel bills, the math is almost embarrassingly one-sided. And it gets even better when you factor in the tax side of things. Owner-operators can often write off costs related to their truck as business expenses, in ways that a hotel bill does not always compare to favorably depending on their specific tax situation. Now, I am not an accountant, and please do not take this as financial advice, but the point is that the economics of the sleeper cab are genuinely compelling when you sit down and work through the numbers properly. There is also the fuel side of this equation that people forget about. When a driver uses a hotel, they still have to idle the truck, or use some form of power management to keep the systems from draining overnight. And then, in the morning, they are potentially driving out of their way to get back en route. When you sleep in the cab, you are already exactly where you need to be. The truck is right there. You wake up, you run your pre-trip inspection, and you are moving. No checkout time, no shuttle to the parking lot, no 45-minute detour. Safety, familiarity, and trust. Now here is something that does not get talked about nearly enough, and that is the safety and security side of this decision. And trust me, this one matters more than most people realize. Think about what a driver is actually dealing with here. You have a truck that costs $200,000 or more, loaded with freight that does not belong to you and that you are personally responsible for, sitting in a public parking lot overnight. Now imagine walking away from that and checking into a hotel a quarter-mile down the road. Cargo theft is a real and significant problem in the trucking industry, and we are not talking about someone grabbing a box off the back. Organized cargo theft costs the industry billions of dollars every year. The simple truth is that the further you physically are from your load, the more vulnerable that load becomes. Sleeping in the cab means the driver is right there. Any unusual movement, any sound that does not belong, any vibration that feels slightly off, they know about it immediately. That kind of awareness has genuine value, and a lot of experienced drivers will tell you plainly that they sleep better in the cab than they ever would in a hotel room across a parking lot, regardless of how comfortable that hotel room might be. But there is another layer to this that is more personal and just as important, and that is familiarity. Experienced long-haul drivers have their sleep environment completely dialed in. The pillow is the right pillow. The temperature is set exactly where they want it. Even the ambient noise of a busy truck stop, which sounds like absolute chaos, to anyone who has never spent a night in one, becomes a familiar, almost reassuring background sound over time. Your body learns its environment, constantly rotating through different hotel rooms with different beds, different noise levels, and different temperatures actually disrupts sleep quality more than most people would ever expect. The culture and identity of the cab. But honestly, beyond the money and beyond the safety, there is something else going on here that is a little harder to put a number on, and that is culture and identity. Trucking is not just a job. I know it sounds like something you would put on a bumper sticker, but it's genuinely true. For a lot of people who are drawn to this industry, it is a lifestyle. It is freedom. It is independence. It is the ability to make your own decisions, run your own operation your own way, and answer to nobody but yourself and the road in front of you. And the cab, that sleeper right behind the seat, is the physical center of that entire lifestyle. Drivers personalize their cabs in ways that are genuinely fascinating to anyone who has never seen it up close. Family photos tucked into the dash, a favorite blanket that has probably logged more miles than most people's cars, a specific brand of coffee that is always stocked no matter what, because some things are non-negotiable. LED lighting setups, custom steering wheels, little figurines or decorations that might look like nothing from the outside but represent something very specific to the person who put them there. What they are all saying in different ways is the same thing. This is my space, this is my world, and I know every single inch of it. There is also a community element to truck stop culture that almost never gets talked about, and it is a real shame because it is one of the most interesting parts of the whole lifestyle. Drivers who park up for the night at a busy truck stop are not isolated individuals staring at four walls. They are part of a community of people living the same life, facing the same road, and sharing the same unspoken understanding of what that means. That community has its own rhythms, its own etiquette, and its own genuine sense of belonging. The moment you check into a hotel down the road, you step outside of that world entirely. And then there is simple pride. Experienced owner-operators take real satisfaction in a well-set-up cab. It is craftsmanship, it is personality, and it is entirely theirs. The downsides, let's be honest. Now look, this would not be a Trucks United video if we were not completely straight with you about both sides. So let's be honest, sleeping in the cab is not all hot coffee and Netflix in a parking lot. And anyone who tells you otherwise has probably never actually done it for more than a long weekend. Space is the obvious one, and there is no getting around it. No matter how well equipped a modern sleeper cab is, you cannot fully stand up in most of them. You are always working within a footprint that is, at the end of the day, the back of a truck. You cannot have a proper shower without walking over to the truck stop facilities. If you have ever used a truck stop shower at 6 in the morning after a long overnight haul, you know it is a genuinely different experience from your bathroom at home. Some of them are great, to be fair. Others are, let's just say, character building. And you cannot cook a real meal the way you would in a proper kitchen. A microwave and a 12-volt fridge are genuinely useful tools, and experienced drivers get remarkably creative with them, but they have real limits. After 3 or 4 weeks on the road, those small daily limitations start stacking up in ways that are honestly very difficult to explain to someone who has never lived it. It is not any one thing. It is the accumulation of all of them together. Loneliness is also real, and it is probably the one that catches new drivers the most off guard. The cab can feel very small when you are 3 weeks away from home, away from your family, away from the people and routines that make up your normal life. A hotel room at least gives you a change of scenery, a different ceiling to stare at, a window that looks out onto something you have not already been looking at for the past 2 weeks. Sometimes that small psychological reset, and it really is small in the grand scheme of things, matters more than any amount of money saved. Experienced drivers learn to manage this. Newer drivers sometimes do not, and that is one of the real reasons turnover in the trucking industry is as high as it is. And then, there are the health considerations, which the industry as a whole is taking more and more seriously as time goes on. Long periods of sitting in a seat, limited opportunity for movement during the day, and the constant challenge of trying to eat well when your dining options are largely determined by whatever is within walking distance of where you parked. All of that creates genuine pressure on a driver's body and mind over an extended career. Good drivers treat their health like part of the job description. They build exercise routines around rest stops. They plan their meals with the same care they plan their routes, and they protect their sleep schedule aggressively because they understand that a tired driver is a dangerous driver. But it takes real discipline and consistent self-awareness to maintain that over the long haul. And not everyone manages it. So the reason so many truck drivers choose the cab over a hotel room is not one single thing. It is a combination of smart financial thinking, personal safety, comfort built around their own preferences, deep cultural identity, and the kind of practical independence that defines the owner-operator lifestyle. The next time you drive past a truck stop at night and see those rows of big rigs with the curtains drawn, do not feel sorry for the people inside, because chances are a good number of those drivers are exactly where they want to be, in their own space, with their own setup, saving money, protecting their cargo, and getting ready to do it all again tomorrow. And honestly, when you think about it that way, the question is not why truck drivers sleep in their cab. The question is, why would they ever bother with a hotel at all? That is everything for today. If you enjoy this one, make sure you hit subscribe for a lot more trucking content coming your way. Drop a comment below. If you are a driver, do you prefer the KB or a hotel? We genuinely want to know. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.